I awaken on my first day, feeling excited but looking like Sid from Toy Story, and get to work clearing out some space for the 15 parsnips the mayor, Lewis, has given me. I then hoe the soil, plant the seeds themselves before watering them. Cutting down my first tree, I continue to expand my area of relative cleanliness, as well as gaining some foraging experience which, once levelled up, will give me the ability to collect tree seeds. Once I've expended most of my energy, I craft a chest to store the items I've collected, and then decide to hit the ton and search for some forageables. I find myself a leek, dandelion, another leek, and then meet Linus, the local homeless man who lives in a tent near this lake. I give him a dirty, unprepared leek as a gift, and he loves it. Eventually stumbling my way into the local store, I meet the local animal farmer Marnie before phasing straight through her, which she is ambivalent about. I then meet the village's quirky goth before talking to Pierre who, living up to his place on the food chain as an independent store owner, is very nice but ultimately gets cooked by the bigger chain stores, in this case being Georgia, which I suppose is the game's de facto antagonist. The game has given me a quest to meet all of the residents of this town, so I run around now barging into people's homes to speak to them, but ultimately don't find everyone and will gradually complete this quest over the next couple of days. I also meet Gunther, the curator of the local museum, who is totally not a ghost, and has recently had his collection of assorted dusty items stolen. He sheds a few ectoplasmic tears over this and says if I find him some new junk to dump on these shelves, he might find me some gifts. I say of course, under fear of being haunted. Just next door is Clit, God's least favourite blacksmith and moderate creep whose objective obsession is Emily, a blue-haired eccentric living down by the river. I give her a sunflower and she judges it to have positive energy, which has probably put me on Clit's kill list, but we have no fear. Being a normal human, I dig through her bin on the way out and find a pinecone. I go for a cheeky wander through the forest next, finding some horseradish, dandelion, and horseradish too. I get a message that I have some ideas to think on, which is game speak for me having just levelled up a skill, in this case being foraging. There's also a few spring onions out here, so I yoink them. As my final act of the day, I pop into the saloon and meet my favourite, and then least favourite, characters, and settle down for some video gaming in the arcade room. I am promptly ripped to shreds. Stumbling home distraught from my loss, I settle in for a sleep after a moderately productive first day. I awaken the next day to a letter in my mailbox from Willie, another fella I haven't met yet who is about to give me access to this game's greatest mechanic. Before I can visit him, I must first water my parsnips, however, and I gather some wood to craft another chest. I then run down to the beach, push Willie into the ocean and steal his fishing rod. That's right baby, we are going fishing! First, however, I go to Pierre and buy some seeds for a few different plants, as it's good to have a bit of variety. I get them planted just below my snips and then run off to the lake for some real fishing hours. My first fish I catch is a mundane carp. Probably one of the worst creatures currently in existence, but a fish nonetheless. My choice of the lake to fish was not unprompted, as it's home to probably the biggest variety of useful fish in the spring. For a start, the largemouth bass is a lovely, big and expensive fish, and along with the bullhead form our money fish. We then have the chub and the carp, which are our energy fish. Not worth much, but usable as a great source of energy for extended fishing trips or any expeditions into the mine we do later. At the end of the day, the energy fish go in a chest by the lake here, and in one last rod cast before I go home, I end up getting a treasure chest. I open it up and inside is a frozen tear, a mineral which Gunther would be very interested in. Back at the farm, I dump the money fish in this bin to sell them, and you can see here once I've gone for a kip, that I levelled up my fishing skill, not once, but twice, and those fish sold for a tidy 500 gold. Spring the 3rd is a rainy day, so I don't even need to water the plants, and can just get straight back to fishing, because I fucking love fishing. Fishing, however, is not nearly as fun to watch as it is to do, so I'll just give you guys the highlights reel. The kind of rewards you can get from treasure chests seem near limitless and often give you items you shouldn't have until much later in the game. I retire for the night and turn in a profit of over 1,000 gold. Still having nothing else to do, I hit the lake the next morning and go through another day of fishing, getting gold ore out of a chest before selling another 1,200 gold worth of fish. Leaving my home the next day, I'm ambushed by Marnie, trying to dump this furry little ginger predator on me. I relent and name him Greg. I also get a little letter in my mailbox letting me know that Georgia cleared up the landslide near the lake, which means I'll be able to go mining, so after harvesting my parsnips and buying a backpack upgrade from Pierre, I go and do just that. Mining in Stardew Valley essentially boils down to running around, hitting rocks and fighting enemies, until you find a ladder which takes you down to the next level. Every 5 levels we reach an elevator which acts as a checkpoint, and every 2 elevators we get a chest like this, which usually has a predetermined item for each floor, but for this run I've selected the Remixed rewards, which means I don't know what to expect. Those 10 levels was all I had in me for today, so I head home and place down a furnace for us to start smelting some of the copper ore I recovered. The next day I take all of the minerals and artifacts I found and donate them to a museum, getting us a reward of 9 cauliflower seeds. I plant them on the farm, and then guess what I do next? Well, I attempt to go fishing, but on the way I run into Lewis at the community centre. We'll talk more about this soon, but for now, I just run in, see this little annoying orange looking guy, and then read some gobbledygook off a slab. Anyway, over at the lake, I get the most ridiculous treasure chest ever, consisting of a magnet ring, which lets me pick up items from further away, some more gold, and a fucking diamond. Nominally, I'm here for the fish, but really, some of these treasure chests are amazing, such as this one, which gave me a skill book to allow me to get fish eggs from treasure chests. When I sleep that night, I've reached level 5 fishing, and so can pick between 2 professions, and I pick Fisher, which makes my fish sell for 25% more. The next morning, I get some mail from Rasmodius the Wizard, saying he had some info on whatever the hell was happening in the community centre, and to come visit him. I walk into his tower and immediately skip the cutscene, but the gist is, the little annoying orange guys are called Juminos, and if we give them the items they want, they'll help us to rebuild the community centre. He gave us a potion to read the slabs in the centre, and the collection and delivery of the items the Juminos demand is basically the main goal of the game. For now. Now, when I go to read the slab, I see all of these bundles which need fulfilling. The first is the spring foraging bundle, which just wants 4 different items which can be foraged in the spring. It's worth noting that this is the Remixed community centre, so it's a bit different from what you would see with default settings. It includes bundles like the sticky bundle, which just wants 500 sap. I ran home to get the other 2 items needed for this bundle, which completes it and gives us a reward of a load of seeds, and unlocks 2 new rooms, the Pantry and the fish tank. The Pantry is all to do with farming, and the fish tank is all to do with tanks. I've got some work to do for the Pantry, so I buy some seeds. I plant kale over here, and a metric shit ton of beans, because one of the bundles need us to get 5 gold quality beans. The quality of harvested plants depends on a few factors, such as what fertiliser we use and what farming level we are. Now, considering that my farming level is 1, and I haven't even touched fertiliser yet, we're going to need to just brute force and get lucky to get them 5 gold quality beans. I had a quest from Gus for a gold bar, as you do, so I got one smelted from the ore I fished up and gifted it to him, bagging us 750 gold and a little bit of friendship with old Gussie boy. I fish all of day 8, getting us level 6 fishing and 1400 gold. As our fishing skill increases and our equipment improves, our fishing profits are slowly growing. Day 9 is spent clearing out some more space on my farm. and then day 10 I get a new fishing rod from William, which allows me to use bait to increase the bite rate. Day the 11th, it rains, so it's time to grab some chubs and hot to go to the mines. The denizens of these levels of the mines are many. For a start, there are these slimes, which are pretty slow but tanky, and actually have a dash attack which can catch you off guard, as well as occasionally poisoning you. I'm only really used to swords, so as you can see, I'm absolutely lost with this dagger. The next creature is the Duggy, an annoying little bastard which essentially serves as a game for whack-a-mole. We run him over, he pops up, and then we quickly spin around and put a couple of holes in him until he dies. Just in time, my least favourite thing in existence appears. The cave fly. These little shits are fast, tanky, do a lot of damage, and most of all are incredibly evasive. They're bad enough to fight with a sweeping sword, but with this little pokey dagger it becomes near impossible. Then, at the polar opposite of the spectrum, we have the bug, which dies in one hit, moves back and forth without free will, and is basically just a free bug meat drop. You might notice I uncovered a ladder here and just walked straight past it. You might even ask, is he stupid? I am, but that's not why, as I'm taking the time to get as much ore and combat XP as possible before we get too deep into the mines. And my favourite little guy in this pit is the rock crab, which pretends to be a rock, but then you attack it and it turns into a crab. Have you ever wondered what hell looks like? Well, the developer of this game happily gave his creative interpretation. I was genuinely ready to be on my way up that ladder, and very well might have if it wasn't for the sudden rush of shit to the brains the bugs suffer here, all coming in from one side. These maggots are the larval form of the cave flies, so you know what I must do. If you don't kill them fast enough, they hide in an impenetrable cocoon and then do this. Yeah, no thanks. It rains again the next day, so I'm straight back on that mine grind. Unfortunately, my sound seems to have been screwed up for this recording session, and like half of the next, so all you have to listen to is the sound of my very soothing voice. This bug drops a ranger shirt, so I go from looking like a midlife crisis metal fan to the bubbly half of a buddy cop movie. At level 20, I get a steel sword, which, although doing less damage than the dagger, is much less annoying to use, so I switch over to it. Back at the farm, I've built a few more chests, so I can separate out different types of items, which is great, because it's much easier to find stuff, but it's awful, because I actually have to put in the effort to organise. I also place this chest the next morning, just for any items which need to go to the community centre or to Gunther, so I don't accidentally use them. It's the egg festival in town today, so I get a big patch ready for all the strawberries I'm going to buy. They're 100 gold each, so I snap up 32 of them and then get down to the main event of the festival, the egg hunt. It is with great shame that I must now admit that not only was I beaten by a goth, but by indeed a literal NPC. I will never live this down. I return home, distraught, plant my strawberries, and then retire for the night. Day 14 is another fishing day, and I get some pretty amazing chest loot, if I do say so myself. The next day, I take all the geodes I've gathered from fishing and mining, and give them a clint for them to crack open, getting a lot of useful materials along the way. A lot of them go straight to Gunther, who gives us a decoration and 2 types of seed that we can't even plant until summer. My next stop is the community centre, where I finish the spring crops bundle, unlocking the boiler room, which is all to do with the mines. Later that night I'm wandering through town when I see Linus digging through some old pensioners' bins. The pensioner in question comes out and thinks it's raccoons, asking me to scare them off, but upon rounding the corner, I find Linus, who asks me if I think it's right that he does this. In a shocking, frankly, moment of character development, I, instead of calling him scum, tell him it's completely fine. as long as it's not my bin. Before hitting the sack, I go for one last fish, netting me a bream, which I need for the community centre, later that night. To reward me for not turning Linus into red mist perhaps, a little fairy comes to the farm and blesses some of my plants. So I wake up the next morning to tend of my bean plants already grown. Day 17, it rains, so I head down to the river as I need 2 fish from here which only come out in the rain, the catfish and the shad. The shad is a pretty easy fish to catch, especially as my high fishing level makes the green bar in the minigame so large. The catfish, on the other hand, is an annoying bastard to catch, and this example I've got here is quite an easy one as far as they go. I pop down to the ocean that evening to catch an eel, another nightfish next to the bream in the community centre. At the community centre, everything's starting to look a lot more full, but make no mistake, we're nowhere near done. As you can see when I'm watering the strawberries here, some little bird has pecked off one of my seeds, so I make sure to place another scarecrow. Since I've got more than enough money and leftover copper, I go down to Clint's to get my pickaxe upgraded, which will help immensely down the mines. You can see I came here a few days ago and dropped off my axe to be upgraded too, which means I can now cut down the large tree stumps on the farm. These give us hardwood, which I don't have much use for right now, but will be useful for buildings later. I go down to Pierre's and get the second and final backpack upgrade, increasing my inventory size to 36 slots for a jaw-dropping 10,000 gold. I bring even more items to the museum and Gunther gives me some dusty old painting. I do wonder if these really are rewards or just decluttering efforts for the old Spectre. The next day, I arrive at the community centre with another massive load of items for the Juminos, this time all for the boiler room. If I had to guess, this will probably be the room I finish first, but my biggest sticking point will be finding the last rare gem I need, either ruby or emerald. I hit up the mines with my upgraded pickaxe and a brand new weapon I fished up, the broken trident. It is technically a dagger, but the damage is so good it almost makes up for it. You can see it has a secondary attack that stabs a few times in quick succession, which can pretty easily melt any enemy, including those stupid little cave fly bastards. Victory at last. With my new weapon I pretty easily shit stomp my way down to level 30, where these horrible dingy dungeon levels start. They introduce these little rock guys that just appear out of the ground, however they're still no match for my trident. The morning of the 21st day, my strawberries are ready to harvest. I run over to the community centre and finish the blacksmith bundle with the iron and gold I got from fishing, and then sell all my strawberries for a nice profit of over 4,000 gold. Like a small Victorian child, we are then straight back down the mines, where we quickly reach level 40, finding a slingshot which I will likely proceed to never use, and enter into the ice caves, where we are going to start to find iron in its natural habitat. We also encounter a whole host of new enemies, such as blue slimes, sentient dust balls, blue bats, and dastardly ghouls. I return home that night and put some iron on the boil so we can look at getting some tools upgraded to tier 3 in the near future. The future is now, of course, as I go to Clint's and get my pickaxe upgraded to steel using our iron bars. There's a flying bookseller in town today, so I head over to see what he has to offer. Even for a baller such as myself, it's all a bit too expensive. The one book I was able to afford is the price catalogue, which gives me the ability to see the sell price of items in my inventory, which is not that useful really, but it's a nice bit of quality of life. I do a bit of fishing and then go and riz Emily and Gus up before going to bed. The next morning I collect my 5th and final gold quality bean, so we can go and put that in the Pantry's quality crops bundle. With my pickaxe still at the shop, it's fishing day again. I still yearn for the mines however, and head down to the subsurface lake to bag myself a ghost fish for the community centre. All in all, it's a pretty gnarly day of fishing, netting me almost another 5 grand. On the 24th, I go to the flower dance and try really hard not to cry while standing at the sidelines. The 25th is my second and final strawberry harvest, so I'm not going to bother watering them going forward, as they'll die when summer starts anyway. I run down to Clint's, collect my steel pickaxe, crack a ton of geodes, and then gift any minerals I get to Gunther. With nothing left to water, I get my watering can in for the upgrade too, which will help me save some time next season. I run over to Robin's next to pay her to build me a silo, as I want to start moving into animal farming soon, and this will allow me to start collecting hay. It's end time for some more mining, and Gunther's brethren are no match for my broken trident. I return later that night with an absolute treasure trove of items, and the next day clear out a large area to the left of my farmhouse for expansion. With the newly cleared land, I place down a tree farm where I'll grow 4 of each type of tree and then hook up some taps to them later. I then begin fencing off an area just below that where I'll get Robin to build me a coop once she finishes the silo. When I go to see Clinton next day, my watering can is done, and I get my hoe put in to upgrade so it'll be ready on the first day of summer. The silo is also done today, so I commission Robin to put me a coop together too. With some grass starter from Pierre and the rest of the fences in, this little pen is ready for some chickens as soon as the coop itself is built. I river fish the rest of the day away, as the catfish we catch in the rain are actually worth a decent amount. The final day of spring dawns, and I decide to spend it in the mines where I find myself a fancy little hat to further complicate my outfit. At floor 70, I get another slingshot for me to forget about, and appear to have entered some sort of icy castle. I encounter another new enemy here, the skeleton, which I immediately start shanking up. They're pretty tanky, taking 2 speed shanks from the trident to kill. I end up slithering my way down to level 75 before deciding to turn it in for the night, and drift off into slumber and out of spring. I'd like to give special thanks to my Ko-Fi supporters: Acrid Arsonist, Arome, Japamela, Greenest God, Watcher, Scovey, Dick Dastardly Enthusiast, Hunter, Two Step SA, Nathan14321, Foxtrot 9000, Das Tom, Leo, Shrunkhoovy, Dr. Ducklumps, Bottle of Water, Hat Guy, Crow, Cloudhunter77, Mission, Lebo the Gazebo, Just Be Cool, Dampire, Mig, Benjamin Gagney, Lula, Zach, Lapdragon3, Pro Moron, Hey1121, Justice, Michael Shoning, and The Fiendish.